Companion. All right, so in the middle of my 2 weeks of watching dozens of movies at the Sundance Film Festival, I managed to sneak in a viewing of Companion. And since so many of you have been asking me to cover it, I decided to do it a little bit ahead of schedule. I was originally planning to cover this once it was available a little bit more widely, but we're gonna try and do this now. So please watch and leave a little comment for the algorithm if you care to. But Companion was a movie I was instantly interested in, even without knowing anything about it, just because I saw that Sophie Thatcher from Heretic is in it, who you guys know I've been a big fan of her since Yellow Jackets. I like Jack Quaid in The Boys. I'm a big fan of Zach Krieger's movie Barbarian, and he produced this, so I was hoping that this would at least be decent, even though it was written and directed by the guy who wrote Fred the Movie 3. And I thought it was a pretty fun time overall. I do feel the movie hits a point where it's trying to go deeper in terms of the messaging it's trying to get across there, but didn't know the most effective way to do it, and just decided to have fun with it as it went along, which again is totally fine. I love a solidly fun movie with some good bits and hell yeah brother moments. It's some pretty dark times out there, even being Canadian, so some fun stuff is nice.
She's tied up inside, so she's not going anywhere.
But there is a specific movie that I can definitely feel some inspiration from that was handled better in areas, and I won't mention what it is right now, but I don't think that diminishes from the value of this one, because they're definitely going for completely different tones, and the tone this one is trying to nail, I really think it did. It's very fun and a little sad when it needs to be, with some great performances and a dance sequence. I mean, what more could you want? I also got a nice little surprise Lukas Gage appearance, which I always appreciate. Megan Suri and Harvey from What We Do in the Shadows. Just a solid little cast for this weekend bloodbath getaway. But when I'm going for a romantic getaway or being totally alone, I turn to today's sponsor, Raycon, to get me through with great comfort sound and the silence that surrounds it. Because now I have the everyday headphones. Now, I love the everyday earbuds for sleeping because of how low profile they are, but when I'm traveling on a plane or trying to get work done in more noisy environments and just really trying to block out everything around me to enjoy what I'm watching, there's nothing quite like a solid pair of over-ears with active noise cancellation. I live in an apartment that sound travels through pretty easily, so when people above me or below me are being noisy, I'm probably gonna hear it. So if I'm editing or trying to get work done, they're very much essential. They start blocking out all that outside noise so I can really just focus in on what I'm doing. They are light, plush, comfortable, have awareness mode for those moments when I actually do need to pay attention to my surroundings, which is also very helpful in an airport. 40-hour battery life, 360 immersive surround sound, and a quick charge feature where 15 minutes of charging gets you 2 hours of battery life. And again, the biggest thing, they are so comfortable to my sensitive little baby head. It's very nice. And you get all that starting at less than half the price of premium audio brands. So if you want the power to control your sound space, make sure to try out Raycon for yourself by going to buyraycon.com/Jedi20 to get 20% off all headphones. Yes, that is 20% off all headphones. And if for some reason you're not totally satisfied, they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, into the movie, which means spoilers. And if you've somehow managed to skip any premise of this movie, I wouldn't even look it up. I would actually just go watch it first if you're remotely interested, based on the minimal things I've said above. Just, it's a couple, they go away on a little romantic getaway to the woods in this rich guy's house, and weird bad things happen. If that sounds really interesting to you, maybe just go watch it, because I think the movie is trying to trickle in a reveal, even though it is in the description of the movie on Google. I don't think it was originally in one of the descriptions, so I assume that's just an AI generated thing, but whatever, just keep that in mind. We are going to be going full spoilers here. Unfortunately, the poster alone is probably enough to let most people know what's going on, but I don't think that really fully diminishes from the movie, because it is still enjoyable to watch. But it starts with a great hook. Our lead, Iris, telling the audience that there are 2 moments in her life where she remembers just the void of existence slipping away to something with purpose.
The first was the day I met Josh, and the second, the day I killed him.
So instantly, I'm in. We got a movie starting off by telling us she's gonna kill her boyfriend while also showing us their grocery store meet cute with him knocking over an orange display. Incredible. Then combine that in with the marketing choices to say that it's from the same studio that brought us The Notebook, setting it up as that more traditional rom-com advertising before cutting it to a scene with her cuffed to a chair so they can swap to saying that it's from the creators of Barbarian. Excellent marketing choices all around. They're really nailing this. I really feel like Neon is making everyone step up their game. Neon did the marketing for Long Legs. They're currently doing a really good marketing campaign for The Monkey.
Oh, fuck.
So we pick up with Josh telling Iris to wake up in the car as they're on their way to this little weekend getaway where she is very nervous that his friends aren't going to like her for some reason because she thinks they already don't. So you're going to start thinking of the reasons why. You know, it could be that she seems like a good deal younger than them, so maybe that's it. She specifically points out that it's Kat that really doesn't like her, so maybe Kat's into Josh and feels jealous. Who knows? We'll find out. Josh just tells her to smile and act happy. The winning combination, because again, she is genuinely freaked out. She is horrified of embarrassing him specifically, giving them more reason to dislike her, which I totally get. Meeting friends can be completely terrifying in any relationship, because if it doesn't go well, they can potentially influence your partner's feelings, and no one wants that. He's kind of a dick about it though, because he doesn't just say like, oh, just smile and be happy, or smile and pretend to be happy. He's like, just don't be mopey and weird.
You know, don't be all mopey and weird.
So this lakeside mansion and all the land around it are owned by Sergey, a presumed Russian mobster of sorts who's obsessed with Stalin that Kat's sugar babying for so he can just ignore his marriage. And they are joined by Patrick and Eli actually seems pretty warm towards Iris, so it's really just a lot of hostility from Kat and then some weird comments from Sergey. Like the first thing he says to her is call her a beautiful creation. But we get to dinner where Patrick's telling the story of how he met Eli, and it's another iconic meet cute of him stepping on Eli's dinosaur tail at a Halloween party, complete with a coordinated dance to Lil Boothang by Paul Russell. All sweet jokes and fun from around the table, but Iris is so interested about this story of love and how Patrick immediately knew that Eli was the one in that moment. Because that's exactly how she felt when she met Josh, that a piece of her was fixed the second their eyes connected, and now her only focus is keeping him happy. So, a little bit intense. I do think it's important to be focused on your partner's happiness and to be, really concerned about being a good partner and to realize the way you failed. I've done a lot of introspection there recently. But that service and love can't be at a total sacrifice of your own well-being and identity. And with Iris, it is just going to keep building that her only focus is Josh. I feel like it's very much setting up this scenario of like the ways people like really start to lose themselves in like love and obsession, and if there's a difference in that, which I think is a really interesting thing to explore, because I think it is very easy for love to become obsessive or to confuse obsession with love. There's lots of ways you can look at this. I think it's very interesting, and the direction it ends up going makes way for like you can just take it at the literal sense of what's happening here, or look at it what it means allegorically, because this will be more focused on his treatment of her than the other way around. Either way, we get to a conversation with Kat where she also says things to imply that her accepting money to do whatever Sergey wants whenever he wants it is not that different from what Iris is. She doesn't hate Iris, she just hates the idea of her that Iris makes her feel replaceable.
You make me feel so replaceable.
At this point, I'm pretty sure I knew what the movie was going for based on the poster. I hadn't seen any trailers. I didn't look into the description. I just knew it was like a horror-related movie with Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. But spoiler, it's around here that my assumption of her being an android robot thing felt a lot more confirmed. That her entire purpose in life is to be in love with Josh and do whatever he wants, whenever he wants it. So when Kat specifically mentions that Iris makes her feel replaceable, that feels like, why would people bother paying for another human mistress that has autonomy to maybe ruin your life when you could pick out the exact model of android you want to be completely customized and devoted to you, that you can just power on and off at will if you get annoyed.
Shut her down already.
I'm not saying that most people would want that over genuine human connection, but if you're already going to be, cheating on your wife, potentially ruining your family, it would be a hell of a lot easier if it was a robot that had no outside autonomy. I also feel like this movie is specifically scratching at that idea of men who say they want relationships but really just seem to want sex bots that boost their egos with no effort. But the interesting thing here is, based on the conversation, I don't think that Iris is aware that she's an android. Because she's talking about wanting to be more like Kat, but just something holds her back so she can't do it, something like programming. And the android stuff felt all the more confirmed when, after some sex with no aftercare or cuddles, Iris is just telling Josh how happy she is to be on the trip and hoping that he is too, and just kind of going on, but then stops the instant he says, Iris, go to sleep. And seeing as the first line of dialogue in this movie that isn't her like monologuing over the dream of their first meeting is Josh telling her to wake up, kind of feels like a programming command. Add that into how she can just spew off the exact forecast when asked, and the fact that he calls her Beep Boop as a nickname, it's just all playing into the android thing.
Come on, Beep Boop, you're not gonna screw everything up.
He also made Iris carry both suitcases up to the house, which I just thought was super rude and weird at the time, but also noticed that she didn't really struggle with him at all. But we cut to the next day where Josh insists she go down to the lake without him, and he immediately starts doing something on his phone with a flash drive, something that could be used in programming. But it's at the lake where she realizes there's a knife in her pocket that Sergey tries to force himself on her, saying that it was all worked out and Kat said it was okay, that this is specifically what Iris was made for. So definitely a robot, which Sergey specifically sees as a sex bot that can't say no, even though she's clearly programmed to be devoted to Josh. But this is all feeling a little bit staged and weird because, why the hell did she have a knife in her pocket, a knife which she then uses to kill Sergey in self-defense? And they really do go all in on this, like she walks back into the house just completely drenched in blood from head to sternum. But the saddest part here isn't that she's afraid for her own life, it's that if Sergey had killed her, she'd never see Josh again, and that's what she was worried about. Which is sweet in some ways, and obviously love is what gets a lot of people out of a horrific situation and just like trying to get home to somebody. But it's the way she's escalating and her obsession over it that makes it very concerning before Josh just tells her to go to sleep and she powers down. Full confirmation that she is in fact a robot that he has control over. So everyone's a little bit freaked out because this specifically is not supposed to happen. There's supposed to be safeguards in place to make sure that she can't hurt humans, animals, or other companion bots. But while everyone else is occupied, he wakes her back up, and as assumed, she actually does not know that she's a robot. He can control her language, intelligence, eye color. She can never lie to him. Just, she's not a real person. But she feels so much like one because she has all these vivid memories, but even their meet cute was just made from a list of options and he can reset her at any time. A nice touch here is when they cut back to the day they actually met, when Empathix drops her off at his house, and in the background it's playing Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, which works on multiple levels, both for her name and because that song was specifically written for a movie that Jack Quaid's mom starred in, City of Angels. So not only does she have to come to terms with the fact that the entire life and existence she has is a lie, he's being kind of a douche about it. But as she's freaking out, Kat comes in and is like, yo, why haven't we shut her down yet? Which obviously is going to make her freak out even more. But while he's off talking to Kat to try to calm her down, it is fully revealed that he hacked Iris's programming to get her to kill Sergey so he and Kat could split his $12 million that he has like sitting in this safe. Justifying it by saying he was this mobster who was into human trafficking, even though it was definitely more for the money than any other altruistic intent. But while they're talking, Iris manages to escape because dumbass didn't bother resetting her after engaging in the murder plan.
Eli, Iris, shh, baby, you're on the phone.
So now they have to pull Eli into the plan for some reason. I do feel like they could have just kept up that lie because he and Patrick were just there to corroborate their story. But maybe not, because Iris also stole Josh's phone in the moment, meaning that she can change all of her own settings now. And the big issue they have is that if the company that created Iris finds her first and realizes that Josh tampered with her programming, they're all fucked. So now that $12 million needs to be split 3 ways, which Eli tries to change to 4 because he wants Patrick to get a cut, which is when they reveal that Patrick is also a robot. Just another meet cute selected from a list. I do feel like there's a definite difference between how Eli treats Patrick versus how Josh treats Iris, but like we'll kind of get there. But that treatment on top of Kat feeling threatened by Iris because she's also basically treated as a sex doll definitely leads to that animosity that Iris feels from them versus how they treat Patrick. So it's robot hunting time, which is about to get a lot harder when Iris realizes she can adjust her own settings and sees that Josh had set her intelligence to 40%. Some men really just can't handle an intelligent woman, and they're all the more weak for it. You want a smart mommy, men. So with the heightened intelligence, it leads to a fun moment with her going through all the options to get out of the situation, which they actually show us happening, which I appreciate, like her trying to hitchhike while completely covered in blood, and like what the negative downside to that would be. Just clarifying that this isn't 100% total intelligence, it's about that of an Ivy League grad. But she lands on sneaking back to the house and using Josh's automatic car to get back home and figure things out from there. But first she runs into Eli and Patrick and listens to their conversation where she realizes that Josh used her to murder someone for money. And it's mainly just Eli going off about how messed up it is that Josh did that and how he'd never do that to Patrick if Patrick was a robot. But Patrick's like, I kind of already know I'm a robot, but I'm okay with it because I love you so much. And it actually seems like Eli loves him back genuinely too. But to Patrick, that love feels like pain, but he's smiling while he's saying it, which I just thought was so interesting. Like he's describing it as angry and violent and bright, which just felt so poetic for the type of movie that we're watching right now. Like I've literally already seen sad boys quoting it on Twitter. Like did this movie really have to get profound with the idea of love? And also how genuine is it if it's something you're programmed to do? And is that obsession actually love, or is it just like devotion? Either way, Iris ends up making a noise. They get into a scuffle, and unfortunately the gun Eli had goes off and he ends up dead, which is brutal. of all the people I wanted to see die in this movie, he was not one of them, or at least he wasn't anywhere near the top of the list. But she makes it to the car, manages to adjust her voice enough to get around the voice ID while Josh is trying to bust the window in and starts working her way home until Josh reports the car stolen and locks her inside. She is so nice to the car before this, though. They'll have to work together in the robot revolution. Those lead to a fun little scene where Josh calls her to try to apologize and say that they can go home and be in love and just pin everything on Patrick. Definitely a desperate manipulation tactic. And even though she still loves Josh because she's kind of programmed to, she says no. She's a little bit upset that he used her as a murder weapon. Starts pulling out all the breakup cliches, which I thought was hilarious.
It's not you, it's me.
But nah, girl, it was definitely him. But Josh's evil continues when he overrides Patrick's command to make him hunt Iris down, which only works after he resets him to forget Eli and register Josh as the love of his life. So now we get the meet cute with them instead, which again is so fun and goofy. But it's here where the cop they called finally makes his way around and is very interested by this filthy girl kicking out a car window. And they have fun with it, they have her change her language to German, so anytime the cop asks her questions and she answers because she can't lie, he has no idea what she's saying. Literally just rattling off about murders, and he's just like, damn, Sergey, that rascal. And then Patrick shows up and just brutally punches his face into death because Josh set his aggression to 100%, which was a terrible idea. And that's all it takes for Kat to be like, yeah, I'm out, you can deal with this yourself, you messed this up, and then reveals that Sergey was not in fact a mobster, just a terrible boyfriend. Which, yeah, of course, you were his mistress, not his girlfriend. But yeah, she just never corrected Josh's assumption, so he'd go along with killing a regular rich dude. But again, let's not pretend there was any altruism in the plan here. That was just cope justification to get the money. But here he is yet again being screwed over and abandoned by a woman. Boo-hoo, bitch, she's abandoning you with over $6 million. Figure it out. But instead of letting her leave, he tells Patrick to stop her, which Patrick, who still has his aggression to 100%, stabs her in the back to do it. Everyone really just getting picked off one by one here. So this is where we get that scene from the teaser, which I've now seen after having watched the movie, with Iris cuffed to the chair, Josh trying to say that the world is just rigged against people like him. That he's just such a good guy but has nothing to show for it, which thankfully Iris doesn't entertain, just points out that he'd rather bitch about what the universe owes him than actually try to do anything with his life. And he does what all weak men do and tears her down, brings her intelligence down to 0 and forces her to hold her hand over a candle, knowing that she can feel pain as it burns away. Then he tops it all off by making her shoot herself in the head, thinking that this would destroy any internal memories and settings of what happened, but all the important stuff in storage aren't actually in their heads. All this really did was temporarily incapacitate her. Once the empathics people get there, the company that made her, he tries to spin this as a tale of Iris being jealous of Kat, even though Kat was specifically like, whoa there, cowboy, so not into you like that. And has Patrick pretending to be the officer he killed to sweep it all under the rug, which is when they reveal that they'll have to look over everything in the memory bank, which is actually stored in the stomach area. Josh really thought he had them convinced though, and just has to try to stop them from taking Iris back, but the second they get outside, dude's like, oh yeah, he's fucked. He definitely modded that. And I need to point out that the empathics employees here are Matt McCarthy and Jabuki, who were both great to see, great comedians. And other than having some funny lines, they also point out that most of the people buying or renting these robots aren't using them for that intended companion purpose. They're torturing them, locking them up, using them as target practice, just outlets for anger and shortcomings they have no interest in effectively changing. Why work on yourself when you can just take it out on another person that won't actually try to charge you? Sadly, Josh sends Patrick to kill them, Iris narrowly saving Jabuki and managing to remind Patrick of Eli and pointing out that Josh is using him, which he has to believe because she can't lie. Josh just weaponized his love just like he did with Iris. But once Patrick remembers and sees that Eli is dead, he just tases himself to death instead. So that's brutal, what a choice. But because she saved him, Jabuki gives Iris full self-control, which sadly just doesn't quite extend to having control of her heart. Doesn't matter if she technically has full autonomy over herself, Josh knows that she still loves him somewhere in there, and then he starts to slam her around the house, assuming that she really won't be able to do anything. However, a couple times in this movie, they have showed people using an electric wine uncorker, so I've just been waiting for that to come into play, and they did not disappoint. Like, he is forcing her to say that he's the most important person to her, he's about to kill her, and that's when she gets him right in the temple, so it just starts, like, sucking out all this skull and brain matter and some kind of, like, eye stuff there. It was so good. You should have just let her shoot you, man. It would have been a hell of a lot less painful. But with him dead, we cut back to that same opening monologue as she takes all the cash and heads off in Sergey's Mustang to live a beautiful life. hopefully. Driving past another model like hers who might have to stop and think about the reality of her existence now too. Which I actually found it interesting that they're all just variations of the same models, because like what happens like in this exact moment where you meet up with someone or you're out and you basically see yourself except maybe with blonde hair instead of brown? Seems like that would start leading to a lot of confusion if these are like widespread enough that they can just be rented. But yeah, that's the movie. Hopefully she got to go on and live life for herself and the shitty guy who abused her is dead. And yeah, if you've dealt with manipulative people or partners or been in abusive relationships, it's fun to see people have to pay for those actions. Let me clarify, that is not an endorsement for murder in all situations of bad relationships. This is a fictional extreme that people can relate to. The movie showing Iris getting to that point where she's able to take away that control that he had over her. Reestablishing or establishing for the first time what it's like to have your own identity and not just living 100% for the desires and whims of another person. Which is why this movie is really working well on that allegorical side and on the literal robot murder thriller side. But I will say there are areas I just wish they had gone further on, particularly around Josh's character. Like, don't just have him spewing off catchphrases, like really show me why he's such a pathetic man. The movie's not remotely shy about using flashbacks, so use more. Have Iris think back to moments where he'd been shitty to her before, like have her recontextualize a lot of these different incidents where he's just literally using her as a sex toy. I think that would have made this a lot more effective and less run-of-the-mill. It just kind of feels like the movie didn't want to commit to anything too hard when it really could and should have. Maybe that really just comes down to trying to tell a story without the right kind of lived experience. It's telling the story largely from a female perspective while also touching on that very real occurrence of men who just see women as outlets and tools, not autonomous individuals, but it's not going far enough with it. Like, it's clearly interested in people who just want to blame everything on a loneliness epidemic without offering up actual ideas about it, or like why some of these people are kind of like their own worst enemy. Like, they don't even have Iris call out Josh on any like specific points outside what's just immediately happened in the last like 5 hours of this movie. Again, just really having her recontextualize aspects of the relationship as it builds into her realizing that she's been abused and just kind of set up to be treated this way from her creation would have been so effective. I just really think it could have gotten to the weeds of this a little bit better, but it just wasn't interested in going that far, I guess. Because an interesting thing about these companions is that they would essentially give people permission to never have to grow or learn to be better people because they'll always love you because it's programmed to. And in a world where we're probably moving towards things like this sooner than later, it'd be interesting to kind of address what that means for society. So it just ends up as one of those movies that, you know, as fun as it was, as much as I enjoyed it, it just kind of left me hoping for a little bit more, that they'd fleshed out that world just a little bit better. But there's still a ton to enjoy here. There's also some other fun homages like the grocery store meet cute feels very Stepford Wives, but that's pretty much gonna do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below. If you've seen Companion, did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? But thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members, with a special thank you to Chaos Custard as the latest Jedi Knight level patron. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my other social medias are linked down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.